You posted your new car. You mentioned the promotion. You wore the watch where everyone could see it. And now you wonder why the predators circled, why the hate grew, why opportunities dried up the moment you thought you had arrived. Every flex you broadcast is information you hand to your enemies. Every number you drop is a map to your weak spots. Every status symbol you show off is a weapon you give to those studying how to drain you. The people who actually hold power do not announce what they own. They do not explain their moves. They do not celebrate in public what should be protected in silence. You were taught that being visible equals having value, that respect comes from showing off, that if people do not see your wins, those wins do not count. That belief is not just wrong. It is how you turn everything you built into a painted target. Someone 5 centuries ago understood exactly why loud wealth is the fastest path to losing everything you worked to build. He watched rulers fall because they confused appearance with strategy. And he wrote the manual you never read. You close the deal. The deposit clears. The first thought is not protection, it is performance. You open the phone. You write the caption. You choose the angle that shows just enough to make them guess. But really, you want them to know. The post goes live. 30 seconds later, the dopamine hits. Congratulations. You just told every competitor, every opportunist, and every person who smiled at you while calculating your net worth exactly where you stand and exactly what you have to lose. 3 months later, someone you barely know reaches out. The message is warm, friendly, full of compliments. They need a loan. They need an introduction. They need you to co-sign, to invest, to cover something temporary. You hesitate, but the relationship was built on your visible success, so saying no feels like betrayal. You say yes. The money does not return. The favor is not paid back. What you thought was respect was just an opening move from someone who studied your posts like a spy mission. 6 months after that, you are in a negotiation. The other side knows your revenue. They saw the vacation. They watched the upgrade. They read between the lines. Now they will not move on price because they know you can afford to pay more. Your openness became their advantage. You are not negotiating from strength. You are negotiating from a position you created by telling the world exactly what you could not afford to show. Meanwhile, the person across the table drives a 10-year-old car, wears no logos, mentions no numbers. They close at terms that leave you wondering how they stayed so calm. The answer is simple. They gave you nothing to study. You gave them everything. This is not about being humble. This is about the disadvantage you create the moment you let the world measure you. Machiavelli did not teach kings to broadcast their treasuries. He taught them to control what people see, to move in silence, and to let enemies guess wrong while you build in the dark. Niccolò Machiavelli spent years watching men gain and lose power in Renaissance Italy. He saw rulers who showed off their gold and fell within months. He watched merchants who hid their assets and survived wars that destroyed their louder neighbors. His conclusion was sharp. Men judge by what they see, not by what is real. Therefore, the ruler who controls what others see controls how strong they think that he is, and that belief decides whether they attack or back off. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, but only if that fear is planned, not accidental. Loud wealth creates envy, not fear. Envy is threat you cannot control. Fear is threat you design. When people do not know your position, they cannot judge the risk correctly. Uncertainty becomes your defense. Hiding becomes your protection. He understood that appearance and reality must be kept separate on purpose. Let others see the mask you create. Protect the truth behind it. In this video, you are going to see 8 Machiavellian frameworks that teach you how to build wealth invisibly, move through high-stakes situations without showing your weak points, and build power that others cannot detect until you choose to use it. These are not tricks. They are building blocks for how you control information, relationships, and power when the world rewards silence over performance and misdirection over honesty. Number 1. Calculated hiding. This principle changes how you talk about money. Most people believe openness builds trust. Machiavelli would tell you openness builds dependency and predictability. Trust in his world was never about honesty. It was about whether you stayed useful and dangerous enough that betraying you had a cost. When someone asks what you make, what you own, or what you are building, your instinct is to answer. That instinct is leftover social training designed to make you readable and therefore controllable. The moment you tell them your position, you hand them a pricing tool. They now know your floor and your ceiling. They know when you are desperate and when you can walk away. Machiavelli watched merchants negotiate in Florence. The ones who survived never revealed inventory, never shared their profit margins, never explained their backup plans. They answered questions with questions. They redirected. They made others guess. You are at dinner. Someone asks, "How business is going?" Old response. You smile. Mention revenue growth. Describe the expansion. You feel smart. They feel informed. 2 weeks later, they pitch you on an investment where they need exactly the amount you casually mentioned having free. You are not their partner. You are their discovered resource. New response. You smile. You say business is business. Some months are solid. You are staying focused. Then you ask them a question about their work. The energy shifts. They gained nothing. You gave up no advantage. For the next 30 days, track every money question directed at you. Do not answer a single one with a number. Replace telling with structure. That is not something I discuss in detail, but I appreciate the interest. We keep internal numbers. Internal. I am more interested in what you are working on. Watch how quickly people stop asking when they learn you do not leak information. Number 2, one-sided information flow. The second principle is about controlling the direction of information. Machiavelli taught that the prince must know the hearts of others but must never fully reveal his own. In modern terms, you collect information while offering noise. You become a collector, not a broadcaster. Every conversation is a fight over who holds the better position. Most people enter these exchanges assuming fairness. You share, I share. Machiavelli saw fairness as a social myth used by the strategic to drain the naive. He would trade false secrets to gain real intelligence. He would let others feel seen and understood while he recorded their weaknesses for later use. You meet a potential partner. They ask about your portfolio. Old move. You walk them through every asset, every timeline, every risk you are managing. You believe this builds credibility. What it builds is a mental file they will use to lowball you, undercut you, or pitch you when you are exposed. New move. You ask what they have built. You ask what problems they are facing. You ask what their exits look like. You listen. You nod. You take mental notes. When they ask you the same, you offer one vague data point and redirect with another question. You leave the meeting knowing their structure. They leave knowing you are hard to read. That gap is power. In your next 5 business or money conversations, set a rule. For every question asked of you, deflect and return 2 questions to them. Practice taking more than you give. This is not lying. This is information war. And in Machiavelli's world, the side that knows more and shows less holds the throne. Number 3, the fake identity. Machiavelli understood that reputation is a tool, not a mirror. He wrote that the prince must appear kind, faithful, humane, and religious, especially when he is not, because men judge by appearances and results, rarely by truth. This principle teaches you to build a public-facing version of yourself that leads attention away from your actual operations. You do not lie about assets. You build a visible lifestyle that suggests a financial position different from reality. If you are building wealth, you live one visible level below your means. If you are in debt, you signal stability without showing off cash. The goal is not to deceive for harm. The goal is to prevent accurate targeting. Let people build the wrong model of your resources. Let them believe you are comfortable but not wealthy, busy but not powerful, stable but not expanding. This creates room to move without triggering the hunting instincts that follow visible wealth. You have built significant assets. Old path. You upgrade the car, the home, the wardrobe, the visible markers. People notice. They recalculate. Suddenly, you are the person they think of when they need money, when they want an investor, when they are launching something and need a whale. You become a resource in other people's plans. New path. You keep the same car. You dress well but not flashy. You live in a place that is clean and good enough but not impressive. You invest in what grows invisibly: knowledge, relationships, systems, quiet positions, and cash-flowing assets. People see you as stable and smart, but not as the target. You move freely because no one is tracking you. Look at your visible spending patterns. Find 3 signals that broadcast wealth or cash. Remove or downgrade them. Redirect that money into assets that do not scream. Let your wealth exist in accounts and investments, not in objects people photograph and gossip about. Number 4. Strategic silence. Machiavelli observed that silence keeps mystery, and mystery keeps power. When you explain yourself constantly, you train others to believe you owe them explanations. When you operate without narrating every move, you create a boundary of respect based on unpredictability. Most people talk to fill space, to be liked, to prove they belong. Strategic silence is refusing to play that game. You do not announce launches until they cannot be stopped. You do not share plans that are still vulnerable to interference. You do not celebrate milestones publicly when celebration hands competitors a timeline of your growth. Machiavelli would tell you that the wise prince acts and allows others to interpret rather than announcing intentions and giving enemies time to organize counters. You are building a new income stream. Old behavior, you post about it. You talk about the vision. You share the struggle and the grind. People comment. Some encourage. Some subtly discourage. Some take your idea and move faster because you gave them the blueprint. New behavior. You build in silence. You test. You refine. You scale. When someone asks what you have been working on, you smile and say you have a few projects in motion. Nothing worth talking about yet. 6 months later, the income is steady, the system is solid, and now you can choose whether to reveal it. You control the information release. No one could interfere during the vulnerable build phase. Find one project, one money move, or one goal you would normally talk about. Do not mention it to anyone outside your core team for 90 days. Experience what it feels like to build something the world does not know exists. That is how empires are built before they are announced. Number 5. The friend test. Machiavelli wrote a lot about the danger of false friends. He believed that men are generally ungrateful, unreliable, and driven by self-interest. Therefore, the prince must judge loyalty, not by words, but by incentives and behavior under pressure. This principle forces you to evaluate who in your circle would benefit from your financial visibility and who would benefit from your fall. When you broadcast wealth, you attract people whose interest is taking from you, not working with you. They appear as friends, mentors, partners, but their closeness is a function of your visible resources. Machiavelli taught that you must know the difference between those who serve your power and those who serve themselves by accessing your power. The first are rare, the second are everywhere. You post about a financial milestone. Messages flood in. Old interpretation. You feel supported, celebrated, connected. New interpretation. You run the Machiavellian filter. Who reached out before the milestone? Who offers value without asking for access? Who has stayed consistent regardless of your financial visibility? The answers: separate signal from noise. Most of the celebration is performance. A few are studying you. Fewer still are actual allies. New move. You stop posting milestones. You watch who stays. You watch who fades. The ones who remain without the content feed are the ones worth protecting. List 10 people in your network. Ask yourself, if I lost everything tomorrow, how many would still answer my calls? If I stopped posting my wins, how many would still check in? The answers tell you who belongs in your inner circle and who belongs in the outer group of contacts you manage but do not trust. Number 6. Emotional distance. Machiavelli understood that caring too much about others' opinions is a weakness. When you care too much about being liked, admired, or validated, you hand others the ability to control you through approval and withdrawal. Emotional distance is the practice of valuing results over image, outcomes over reactions. When you stop performing wealth, some people will express concern, They will ask if you are okay. They will wonder why you changed. This is not care. This is confusion from people who labeled you based on visible signals and now cannot locate you in their mental models. Machiavelli would tell you to let them wonder. Their confusion is your camouflage. You used to post vacations, purchases, wins. You stop. Someone messages, "Hey, you've been quiet? Everything good?" Old response. You reassure them. Explain you are just taking a break. You want them to know you are fine. You manage their view of you. New response. All good. Just focusing on a few things. Appreciate you checking in. You answer without explaining. You do not manage their comfort. You let the silence do its work. They either accept it and remain, or they drift. Either outcome clarifies the relationship. The next time someone questions why you are less visible or less vocal about your money situation, practice the non-explanation. Answer briefly. Do not justify. Do not soothe. Let them sit with the discomfort of not knowing. This trains your nervous system to stop seeking external validation and trains others to stop expecting access to your internal state. Number 7. Multiple masks. Machiavelli taught that the prince must master the art of appearing one way while operating another. This is not lying. This is survival building. Multiple masks means you create different visible identities depending on context, while your actual position stays hidden. At work, you are competent but not wealthy. In your family, you are stable but not flashy. In your industry, you are knowledgeable but not dominating. No single audience sees the totality of your position. This prevents anyone from putting together a complete map of your resources and power. Machiavelli knew that rulers who let one group see everything became predictable and therefore destroyable. You have diverse income streams. Old approach. You talk openly about all of them in all contexts. Your coworkers know. Your family knows. Your social circle knows. Now everyone has a complete image of your financial position. They price you accordingly. They request accordingly. New approach. At work, you are an employee focused on your role. At family events, you are present, but do not discuss business. In your business network, you share selectively with those in similar positions. No single group holds the full picture. You split your identity across contexts. This makes you harder to calculate, harder to pressure, and harder to exploit. Map out the different contexts where you operate: work, family, social, business. For each context, define what you want that group to think about your financial position. Then check your behavior and communication in each space. Stop the leaks. Practice showing each audience only what serves your strategic position in that relationship. Number 8. The loss practice. Machiavelli believed that fortune changes, and the prince must always be ready to lose what he has gained. He wrote that the wise leader prepares for hard times during good times. The loss practice is a mental and practical exercise. You regularly imagine losing your visible position and design how you would rebuild invisibly. This principle destroys the fear that keeps people trapped in loud wealth. If you know you can lose everything and rebuild without anyone noticing, you stop clinging to the performance. You stop needing the validation. You start operating from a place of tough detachment. Machiavelli saw princes fall because they could not imagine life after the throne. The ones who survived were the ones who had planned their invisibility long before the collapse. You have built wealth tied to visibility, a personal brand, a public business, a reputation-based model. Old mindset, you protect it at all costs, because losing it means losing identity. You become defensive, reactive, fragile. New mindset, you spend 1 hour per quarter mapping how you would rebuild if the visible structure collapsed. What skills transfer? What relationships survive outside the brand? What income could you create with zero audience? This practice removes the fear. You realize the visibility was never the power. The power was always your ability to build, and that ability does not require an audience. Set a timer for 30 minutes. Write out a scenario where you lose your current financial position and public visibility. Then, design the invisible rebuild. What would you do? Who would you call? What could you launch quietly? This is not negativity. This is Machiavellian preparation. The ruler who can lose the crown and still command the room never truly loses. The old self believed that wealth required witnesses. You thought success was only real if others could see it, validate it, envy it. You built in public because you were taught that visibility equaled legitimacy. You shared because you wanted respect, and you assumed respect followed from displays of achievement. That version of you was not weak. It was simply operating inside a system designed to make you transparent, measurable, and therefore controllable. The new self understands that people do not respond to your intentions. They respond to incentives, to what they can gain or lose by interacting with you. Machiavelli knew that human nature is driven by self-interest and fear of loss, not by admiration of your virtue. Therefore, the new you controls what others see, not to deceive them into harm, but to prevent them from putting together a map of your weak points. You know when to appear generous and when to enforce boundaries without explanation. You understand that information is currency, and you have stopped spending it on people who offer nothing in return. This transformation does not happen by changing your circumstances. It happens by changing how you think before you act. You stop asking whether people will respect you if you stay quiet. You start asking whether staying loud serves your position or just feeds your need for approval. Machiavelli did not teach performance. He taught strategy. Strategy is deciding what you want, looking at the situation honestly, and moving in the way that builds advantage without broadcasting the move. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. Clarity is the foundation of every Machiavellian principle. See the game, play it better, protect what you build. If you close this video and change nothing, you just consumed entertainment. These frameworks are not philosophy for thinking about. They are operating instructions. Machiavelli did not write for readers. He wrote for rulers who had to act or die. You are not royalty, but you are in a war for power, respect, and resources, whether you admit it or not. Here is what you will do in the next 24 hours. Choose 3 actions from this list and execute them without announcement. First, delete or archive one post that reveals financial position, income level, or asset ownership. Do not explain why. Just remove the intelligence you handed to the world. Second, the next time someone asks what you make, what you own, or what you are building, practice the redirect. Answer with structure, not data. Third, identify one person in your network who only appears when you signal success. Reduce their access. Stop feeding the relationship with content they can study. Fourth, find one area of your life where you over-explain yourself. Cut the explanation in half. Let people sit with less information. Fifth, begin one financial move in complete silence. Do not post about it. Do not talk about it outside your core team. Build it invisible. Pick 3. Execute today. This is not motivation. This is the Machiavellian test. Do you have the discipline to act without applause? Can you build something the world does not see until you choose to reveal it? If you want to understand how power actually works in the modern world, if you want more breakdowns of ancient strategy applied to current problems, stay subscribed. The next video will find you when you are ready to see what most people refuse to face,